Hello and welcome. Today we'll be discussing the groundwater recharging and harvesting in the village of Kumbhasan in the Banaskantha district of Gujarat, India. So why do we need to discuss about rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharging? According to Times of India, Gujarat loses 20 meters of groundwater every 10 years, which is about 65 feet. Now it is alarming as the groundwater drops by 6 to 7 feet every year. Speaking of groundwater levels, in 1960, it was 5 to 6 meters, which is 20 feet. 1965, 33 feet. 1970, 50 feet. 1975, 100 feet. 1985, 160 feet. 1995, 250 feet. 2000, 575 feet. 2010, 600 feet. 2017, 800 feet. Now to the methods and expenditures incurred by farmers for irrigation. In the 1960s, water was lifted through the water table by dug wells using bulls and hand pulleys. In 1965, they started using diesel pumps, which would cost them around 20,000 Indian rupees. In the 1970s, the water was being found much deeper, so they shifted to electric motors, which would cost around 25,000 rupees. 1975, electric pumps were not enough. So the farmers started digging borewells for up to 100 feet and started using submersible pumps. In the 1980s, borewells up to 150 feet were being dug up. 1995, borewells up to 225 feet were being dug up. In 2000s, farmers were digging borewells up to 400 feet. And for 2010, borewells were reaching a depth of at least 450 feet. In 2017, it was noticed that farmers were digging borewells reaching 700 feet. Now, when you combine these costs over the years, a farmer would have spent 20 to 25 lakh Indian rupees. And it comes without surprise that borewells being dug at such depth, many of them were failing, not providing water to the farmers. And what it had come to was the groundwater table was completely depleted. Now, speaking of geology, the village of Kumbhasan has two aquifers. The first aquifer spans up to 300 feet, where water can be collected and stored for usage. We then have a solid rock layer from 300 to 600 feet, where water cannot pass through it. The second aquifer is from 600 feet to 900 feet, where water can be stored for later use. Now, since we receive so much rainfall, where do we store this water that we can store on the groundwater? Usually it is stored in lakes, but lakes and ponds can overflow and the water is wasted. We can recharge the groundwater by creating trenches in ponds, borewells in ponds, and also lining certain rivers by these trenches to recharge our groundwater. We can recharge dried wells by collecting water from the surrounding areas via gutters into a ditch. Post-filtration, this water can be let into the dried well via pipes. In lakes, borewells of 10 to 12 inch diameter of 200 feet in depth, filled with gravel, can help recharge the groundwater. For existing borewells, rainwater can be collected, put into settling chambers, can be filtered, and then sent back through the borewell that has been filled with gravel. In lakes, trenches of 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter can be dug, filled with gravel, which can also assist with recharging the groundwater. Similarly, in rivers, we can make such trenches even larger to assist with recharging the groundwater. From 2016 to 2018, in the village of Kumbhasan, we have worked on revitalizing 5 discarded wells, 5 discarded borewells, dug borewells in 11 ponds, and also worked on making 5 pits in the Ludby River along with desilting previously built check dams. Speaking of the Ajay pond, we made a pit of 5 meters by 5 meters by 5 meters, filled it with gravel, and tried to recharge the groundwater as much as we could using the pond's water. The area of the tank is 15,000 square meters and receives about 1 lakh cubic meters of rainwater. And receiving that 3 times a year in 2016, we were approximately able to recharge about 31 crore liters of water. Now, what is the result of all of this work that we have done previously? The village of Kumbhasan is 1,410 hectares, receiving an average annual rainfall of 530 millimeters. This makes 75 lakh cubic meters of rainwater available to the village. Assuming 15% of this rainwater is lost, we still have about 63 lakh cubic meters of water, which translates to about 635 crore liters of groundwater that has been recharged.
ફેલ થયેલ બોર આર્ટિફિશિયલી કુંડી બનાવી અને તેને બાજુમાં હોલ પાડી અને જે વહેણ હતું એ વહેણનું પાણી રોકી અને એને આર્ટિફિશિયલી રિચાર્જ કરેલી છે સ્વૈચ્છિક સંસ્થા દ્વારા.
આ કૂવામાં જે પાણી આવે તે કેટલા હેક્ટરમાંથી પાણી આવે?
આ તો મોટા વિસ્તારમાંથી આવે છે. આ તો લગભગ 100 થી 200 હેક્ટરના વિસ્તારમાંથી પાણી આવે. 2 વર્ષ પહેલાં આપણે તળાવના પેલા સેન્ટરની અંદર પેલો જે દેખાય એ ભાગની અંદર 10 બાય 10નો ખાડો કરેલો. એટલે આ વર્ષે જે વરસાદ આવેલો લગભગ 3 થી 4 વખત આ તળાવ ભરાણું.
આ કેટલો એરિયા હશે આનો, આ તળાવનો?
100 બાય 150 મીટર અને 5 મીટરની 5 થી 7 મીટરની ડેપ્થમાં આ આખો એરિયા.
તો કેટલું થાય, એટલે ક્વોન્ટિટી કેટલી થાય, કેટલા ક્યુબિક મીટર થાય?
50 ને 1,50,000 ક્યુબિક મીટર પાણીનો શોષણ એક તબક્કામાં થાય. એવું 3 થી 4 તબક્કામાં
એટલે 4-5 લાખ
4.5 લાખ જેવું આ વર્ષે રિચાર્જિંગ આ તળાવની અંદર થયેલું છે. આ વિસ્તારમાં 6 થી 7 બોર ફેલ ગયેલા હતા. 10 વર્ષ સુધી પછી પાણીનો સોર્સ મળ્યો નહીં. પણ આજુબાજુ બોરવેલ અને કુવા રિચાર્જ કરી અને રિચાર્જ કરવાથી આ સાલે ગયા ઉનાળાની અંદર આમાં 300 ફૂટનો બોર બનાવ્યો તો રિચાર્જનો લાભ થવાથી આ બોર અત્યારે સફળ થયેલ છે. આના ઉપર અત્યારે 10 થી 15 વીઘાનું વાવેતર કરેલ છે અને જે અત્યારે આ દ્રશ્ય આપણે નિહાળી શકીએ છીએ. આ લડબી નદી છે અને એ ચોમાસા દરમિયાન જ પાણી રહે છે. આ નદી ઉપર
2 વર્ષ
સિરીઝ ઓફ ચેકડેમ બનાવેલા છે. તો અમુક તૂટેલા હતા અને અમુક સાઈડમાંથી પાણી જતું રહેતું. તો સાઈડના એનું ડીપનિંગ કરી અને સાઈડના બેંક અને જે તૂટેલા ભાગ એના પૂરણ કરવામાં આવ્યું. તો ગયા ચોમાસાની અંદર તો એનો લાભ આ જે આખી ચેકડેમના બેસ્ટ લેવલ સુધી પાણી ભરાઈ અને આખી નદી રિચાર્જ કરવામાં સફળ રહ્યા.
અહીંયા ખોડલા અને વેળંચાની સીમમાંથી ખૂબ જ પાણીનો આવરો છે. ચોમાસાની ઋતુની અંદર અહીંયા લગભગ 2.5 થી 3 મીટર સુધી પાણી ભરાય છે અને અંદાજે 20 હેક્ટરમાં પાણી આ જમા થાય છે અને ચોમાસું સિઝન નિષ્ફળ જાય છે આના હિસાબે. પરંતુ સેવાભાવી સંસ્થાએ અમને ખેડૂતોને મદદ કરી અને એક અહીંયા બોરવેલ બનાવેલો છે રિચાર્જિંગનો, એના હિસાબે પાણી રિચાર્જિંગ થાય છે.
Now, speaking of the result, in the year of 2016, 635 crore liters of water have been recharged into the ground. With this method, we can recharge the groundwater every year in the rainy season. With rainfall increasing, the groundwater table can be recharged even more effectively. The reason this was successful in Kumbhasan is because Kumbhasan has a sandy silt soil top layer. Now, in places where there is clay involved, borewells of 15 to 20 inch diameters can always be dug to recharge the groundwater. Now, since we're recharging the first aquifer, most of the new borewells will only be of maximum of 300 feet, which means that this saves costs for our farmers. Additionally, the motors required or the pumps required would be of smaller capacity and would also save the farmer electricity. With this, I thank you all on behalf of Dr. Laxmikant Thakkar. And in case you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on the number and the email mentioned. Thank you.